bunch of great attendees logged in, and I know, first of all, this topic, people are going to walk away with some really good info because this is the first time I've known this type of interview or this type of conversation has happened. So, Julianne Hertel, thank you so much. She just a quick intro for her, and thank you again for your time. Founder and managing partner of Dream Big Wealth Strategies. Excuse me. She's been in the business for 18 years. She's built a practice helping people make better decisions with their money so they can live more freedom, purpose, and joy. It's all great. I need some of that. Her work is especially focused on what she calls, and this is great, people, dream chasers and world changers, kind, generous people who want to create impact, leave a legacy, and enjoy the journey along the way. Man, if that doesn't encapsulate what advisors should be in the industry for, I don't think there's anything else that I could connect with. That's so great.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, and the reason why she's joining us today, she made the decision to move to independence with Cornerstone Planning Group from the same insurance company that I held from for 17 years before making the jump to independence. It's really why I wanted to have the conversation with her today. And this is what makes this a unique conversation. She's 11 weeks after 11 weeks in. So 11 weeks ago is when she put her resignation in at that controlled, constrained environment, and now is on the independent side. So when I speak to advisors from around the country, I can tell them, hey, the transition's not as bad. It's all going to be great. Meanwhile, most people are balls of anxiety like I was, and like Julianne certainly was last year. We're going to talk about that. So now 11 weeks after, and it's most advisors, they could find information about the process, but what's harder to find is someone willing to talk about it that's still in it.
Mm-hmm.
So 11 weeks out, I know your workload is far less than what it was, say, when you were 2 weeks out or a week out. So again, thank you so much for taking the time, and let's kick this off. Let's break this up. Let's talk about some of your mindset shifts that happened early on and then into today. But when did you start thinking something needed to change for you?
Yeah, so for me, every couple of years I've gone out and kind of poked around just to see what else is in the marketplace. I've talked to the investment wholesalers that I work with, and I've said, where are your happy advisors? But I never really went in deep until probably about a year ago or so. So,
Mhm.
say, 8 to 10 months before I actually did the transition. And there's just a number of things that just started to irk me, and like all the things that were like palatable, like they bothered me before but like I was able to tolerate, all of a sudden just started getting like, no, this isn't cool anymore. And talking to
Mhm.
my friends in the industry that were at different firms, and I was like, well, it's because we can't do this, and they're like, what are you talking about? We do that just fine. And so all of the different conversations I was having brought me to this point where like, all right, now I need to go deep. Like it's really time to do my due diligence and make a decision. Am I going to, recommit where I am, or am I going to commit to a new place?
And recommitting means you're accepting the
Totally.
constraints that you had. And that was very hard for me to do. And that's what made my exit much easier. It was easier for me to endure the uncomfortableness and the uncertainty and the anxiety because I wasn't willing to
Totally.
accept all those things as normal. Give me a couple examples of what frustrations were building during that time, like right before you knew you had to go.
Yeah. So one of the things that was, some of the key things that were really pivotal in like that decision was it got to the point where there was this level of complexity with our business where everything felt difficult. It
Mm,
felt like there were so many different systems for every little thing that we did. And like if I were to meet with a married couple and we were to open up rollover IRAs and Roth IRAs and 529 plans and a joint account, it would be like 7 different DocuSigns for each of them, it felt like sometimes.
wow.
And that meant, hours of work for my staff to actually populate things and, go ahead and do things. So just everything felt difficult between, applications with clients, the financial planning process, the hiring people, even things like tracking my numbers. So I keep a scorecard every week, a la EOS and traction. And I wasn't even sure if my numbers were accurate because there were so many different systems I had to pull my numbers off of. So I'm here tracking these numbers, not even sure how accurate they were for what my purposes were. So that was one thing. It's just this idea that everything felt difficult when it didn't need to feel difficult.
Mm,
It didn't need to be difficult. The second thing is that I, had certain compliance dings that became clear were not an industry ding. It was more of a company ding.
Good one.
And I
Yeah.
felt, you know, of the many distractions I had, the things that were distracted from me from actually doing my best work with my clients, one of them was compliance saying, hey, have you fixed this tweet that somebody else put out about you about an approved presentation that you did? And it wasn't even my own marketing, it was somebody else's marketing, and everything was approved. And, I didn't understand why it was just this constant distraction. And then the same thing with compliance. I wanted to do some marketing, and I honestly felt like I was being laughed out of the room. And it was nothing innovative. It's things that my friends in other companies were doing. And just, it was, no, you'll never be able to do that here. That will be just
Mm.
about impossible to do. And then probably the last thing that really set me over the edge was that, being with the same company for, 18, almost 19 years, there were so many orphan clients that were in my book. And some of them I developed relationships with, but there were hundreds that I didn't. And I started realizing they were becoming a liability.
Mm.
And,
Good point.
they were these some of the policies were not solid policies. They were, old universal life insurance policies, for example, that, all the assumptions were different on it. And one complaint could really, knock me out at the knees for everything I'm building. So I think all of those things put together was what really pushed me over the edge.
Those are great points. And the first one, a lot of advisors have the same problem. Most that I speak to have it. When you're at these big constrained firms, all the compliance guidelines are built around the lowest common denominator, which is the advisor that just got licensed last week. Just
100%.
to
I felt like
someone like
a
you,
child.
it's 17, 18 years experience with no client complaints, doing fantastic work. Your rules are the same as the person that just got licensed, that doesn't have a single client yet.
100.
Um, it's very difficult to operate and scale a practice within those confines. It's crazy. And the orphan client ones, it's interesting because an advisor that we both know very well, still at that insurance company, got dinged. FINRA, U4, I think she got a violation because of something that the service center did wrong, the wrong form. Client made a complaint. Money wasn't invested in a timely manner. The client had to be made whole by the company, and this was an orphan client that advisor never did any business with. It was
Mhm,
just assigned to that advisor,
mhm.
and that ding's air forever. And there's nothing that advisor can do about it. The company admitted blame to her, or admitted fault to her through email and verbally, and they still pin that complaint on her. Um,
Exactly. And you
yeah.
can't get rid of clients. I can have like a mutual conversation with somebody saying, "Hey, this relationship might have run its course, but
Hmm.
that's it. I can't do anything about it. There's my name still shows up on their statements. I'm still responsible, and so forth."
That's unfortunately when firms get that big and they have to again tailor down the compliance and compliance regulations in firms like that where we were at was to protect the company and not protect the advisor.
Mhm.
Where I can talk for Cornerstone, I'm sure there's many firms that do it as well. That our compliance is, hey, we're in it with you. Let's make sure that we're both covered. Like completely different narrative.
Yeah,
And you
and
see that now differences now today in your
yeah,
compliance oversight.
completely.
Um,
That's actually, if I can, jump ahead a little
yeah.
bit, that's one of the recommendations I would make to anybody as you're exploring different companies and so forth. So I met with the compliance officers of the companies the different companies I was looking at, including the Cornerstone compliance officer. And I went through, okay, here's all the things I've been dinged over the last 2 years. And specifically, the Cornerstone compliance officer said, no, that's not a problem. That's not an industry problem. You would be fine doing all of that here. So what I was doing wasn't wrong. But again, if was I was being treated like a child.
And here you get treated like an adult. And I think I told you that very early on. And I hope we've stood up to that 11 weeks in. Um, so now you get these frustrations. You make the decision. You're talking to several firms. You make the decision to come here. Now it's like, okay, great. We have timing. What were you most worried about, like at that point? So let's just kind of let's map this out time wise. So you have X amount of months to prep. You know what firm. Now what's going through your head?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things I had was actually how relationships were going to change because I'm
Mm,
such a relationship driven person. And so I thought about all the professional relationships I had made. And I didn't think that people were all of a sudden, the people that I care about were all of a sudden going to turn on me, but I knew those relationships would change and accepting that and saying, okay, well, no, I need to own what I'm doing for myself and for my family and for my
mhm.
future. And I just have to accept that relationships are going to change. There's the obvious. How are my clients going to take it?
Yeah.
What if everybody fires me? What if nobody comes? And clearly that didn't happen. What would that conversation look like? I couldn't even, wrap my head around, how do I actually have the conversation? What does it look like? Would anybody come? And then, of course, we've all heard the horror stories. And, I braced for impact. I
Mm.
think we were so over prepared that the impact didn't happen nearly as I thought it would.
That, and I've said this many times, the process an advisor goes through when they make a transition from one firm to another and having to have that conversation with their clients, you're put in a position where the client needs to make a decision whether they're going to hire you again or not.
Mhm.
What this is, I think everyone should do this, how valuable that is. So when your clients were faced with the information that you were leaving, they took a step back and said, well, okay, am I going to follow? And they're forced to mentally say, well, Julianne did this for us. She was there for us here. Her staff helped. Of course, we're going to come. They're almost going through their relationship like a movie. Nothing bad happened. In fact, she's had our back the whole time we've known her. In fact, we wish we knew her earlier. And wherever we don't care where she goes. And that is the biggest. It's head trash to an advisor to think that most of their clients won't come because in all the dozens and dozens of extractions that I've worked on, that is the opposite. In fact, we've had most advisors 95+% retention rate. In fact, we've got some 99s, 100, believe it or not. Um, and it all ties back to the good work that you've done. And that's why you were over prepared, but you were also surprised on client reactions. Um, but
Oh,
it all ties back to the level of service and empathy and everything you've had for these clients since the day you met them. Has nothing to do with the company on the card. We all know that's head trash as well. So it's really it's proof that the work you're doing is impactful.
so Carmen, I have to share with you one of the things that surprised me the most is that
Mm.
not only did our clients saying, yes, Julian, I want to continue to work with you. We're excited. Almost every single client said, and this is why. And it just
Oh,
blew my mind at the impact I was having. I mean, I knew it, but like I didn't know it per se. And when people started sharing with me all the ways I've impacted their lives and their families, it blew my mind. It was such a confidence boost.
that is great. I mean, and those relationships are going to be better. They're going to be re-solidified because again, they're forced to confirm why they're with you in the first place, and
Mhm.
confirm that they'll probably always be with you, which is great. Um, when you do good work, we're blessed with great retention in this business. In fact, there's studies out there that say advisors that don't do good work have 90+% retention rates. But that's why people like you won't be able to get rid of clients because you do such good work, which is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Our retention, so I haven't run the full numbers yet in the whole book of business, but out of the top 30 clients in terms of assets invested, top 30 households, we retained 29 of them.
I'll take that batting average any day.
Yeah, we did have a very short list of of the people in the households in the top 30.
Mhm.
About 6 months earlier, they said, okay, here are the people that I think will take the opportunity to consolidate the money with another advisor, or we'll
Yep.
do something like that. I knew I wasn't the only person on their team. Um, and so that one person out of the top 30 was on that very short list. All the other people on that short list came with us happily.
That's great.
Yeah, it was very, very
That's right.
exciting.
Um, now that so you have this fear. By the way, it's the fear of every advisor. And you talk to any advisor that makes a move, it's not what they think. It's much, much better.
Yeah.
Um, So you had a transition day mapped in mind.
Yeah.
What did you do from the time that you made the decision to transition day? What do you think what are the things you did during that time period that helped the transition the most?
Yeah. So what helped our transition the most was we went overkill on preparation.
Mm.
And so I have an operations manager who was fantastic. And funny enough, people, when I was having the conversations, once the transition happened, they would say, "Hey, what's going on with Bianca? Is she coming with you? Is she with
Ah,
you?" So she's that good. But in any case, one of the things that we did really well was Bianca, especially, as well as another staff member, went overkill on the prep. She knew exactly where every client account was, whether it was at the RIA or the mutual fund company. She knew every single monthly or annual transaction in or out, and everything was really easy for her to put for all of us to have just at our fingertips.
mm.
Because our transition happened in March, we went ahead and sent all of our clients their tax forms via secure email in advance so that we knew that on April 15th we weren't going to get the call because we weren't going to have access to them at that point.
Great move.
Um,
Great move.
Thank you. And then we also ran our e-money financial plan one last time a couple days before we did the transition. So even if
Hmm.
we did have e-money migrate everything over, just having that backup again, overkill,
Yeah.
having the financial plan, which included the balance sheet, a final cash flow report, all of those things. And one thing that we did about 2 weeks before we did the transition was I gave a bonus to each of my staff members of $500 with the purpose that it was their money, but they had to open up a Schwab account underneath Cornerstone so that we were the first people going through the application process.
So
And
you can connect with clients if you know you saw what they saw when onboarding. Basically.
100%. And so then when clients started opening the accounts, they said, "Hey, when I log in, how do I click on this?" Any one of my staff members could say, "Yes, like let me log into my own just so I can go alongside with you."
Oh,
And
that's a fantastic idea.
yeah, and then thank you. So I think that was helpful. The condition that I gave was that the money they could keep it in cash if they wanted to, they could invest if they want to, whatever they want. It was their money, just had to stay in there for 3 months.
That's a fair deal if I ever saw one. It's
Yes, thank
great. Now, is there anything you wish you started earlier? Anything come to mind?
I mean, what I wish I started earlier, which we couldn't, was I wish I talked to clients earlier, but obviously that's against
Okay,
every
so
policy known to
right,
man. So
pretty much.
that would be the only thing. No, I mean, honestly, just being prepared, understanding what the rules are, having your attorney know what the rules are with your firm in
Yeah.
terms of what data you can take and what you can have and things like that. But just really having everything outlined, assuming that you're going to go dark the day that you transition. So knowing where the money is, what the investment strategies are, money flows in and out.
It's in my book. We have a chapter on it, but we talk about having a team, being prepared. The
Yeah,
first thing you do is get your agreements reviewed by an attorney that's industry specific, and even
100%.
have them review your contracts at the firm you're going to. Hey,
Hmm.
look, for a couple $1,000, you can have an attorney ride shotgun with you during your transition, where your resignation is being sent on attorney letterhead. That they're there, you have questions, concerns, you're getting mail from your previous firm. What does this mean? It is such a small investment, but it really lets a lot of that anxiety dissipate because you have someone that's helped hundreds of advisors through this, but understanding the rules. And this is
Hmm.
why we don't go into too much detail in the book because we can't. Every firm is different. Make sure you know the rules. You can't play the game unless you know the rules. Do not put yourself in hot water. In fact, there's stories. My whole strategy is look, you leave, you thank the company for everything they provided you. You always leave on good terms. Now, I remember a team that left, not to us, to a friend of mine's firm, and they did not want to leave nice. They left in a fury, and that contra firm filed a TRO, and they went the legal route. Now, weren't known for doing it, and it came down to the way they exited. Like that could have all been avoided. So just be smart. There's no reason to poke a bear. There's no reason to do any of that stuff. You send a nice resignation letter. People resign from firms in probably hundreds, thousands a day. There's no reason to try and leave a mark on a place that you'll never be at again. So I say just play nice, go off to the
Yeah,
sunset.
that's exactly what we did. And my transition went really smoothly to the point where if we think about like what are the worst possible things that could happen in the
Hmm.
transition, that happened to me, which is that the week after I resigned, two of my clients died.
That's right. Wow.
And so we were able to work together so that from the client experience side, it just got handled. It got handled really gracefully, really efficiently. The beneficiaries got their money. There was investment money, life insurance money, things like that. It just, we all handled it.
Wow.
Like,
You talk about worst case scenario, a week into your transition, being detached from a lot of that data,
yeah,
but because of the way you exit it, and by the way, it's who you are, people respect you. And at the end of the day, those people you're dealing with at the contra firm were, hey, we need to take care of the clients first. But you still being able to quarterback that and the client being served when worst case scenario happens and twice. Were these
hmm.
people related? Was it the same incident or two completely?
No, completely different.
Wow. What are the odds?
Yeah.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know because then I won't
No,
leave the house.
no.
But the fact that they were served and the families were taken care of a week into a transition is, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I was
Now,
how it happened, how it
let's
how the fallout happened. It was a really
that's
positive fallout.
well, now let's talk about the good stuff.
Yeah.
Now we call it T Day, not D Day, because D Day was not a good day. So we call it T Day for transition day. So walk me through the first few weeks. You resign, everything goes great because of the leaders at the firm, your contra firm respect you and they know why you were leaving. Walk us through the first 2 weeks. Like what's going on? What surprised you? Let's start here. In your first 2 weeks, what surprised you the most?
Um, well, let me back up to the day before. The day before, like I knew, the anxiety was building.
Hmm.
I'm not a secret keeper. And so I'm holding on to like one of the biggest secrets of my life at this point. And again, I still have this fear about the relationships that were going to be ending or changing and so forth. So the day before, my anxiety level was through the roof. It's like you might have as well have given me like 10 cups of coffee. Eventually, I called it a day. I went to the gym. I destroyed myself so I could at least get a couple of hours sleep the night before. The morning of, quite frankly, what I did at 8:10 in the morning, I sent a number of pre-drafted thank you emails to people that were important to me that did really great work with me and my staff and made a really big difference. To be clear, I was almost 19 years with one company. I wouldn't have done it any differently. Sometimes relationships just change. Sometimes
Hmm.
relationships just come to an end. It doesn't mean that any one of us is bad, just sometimes relationships come to an end. So I wouldn't have done it any differently. So I sent out the pre-drafted thank you emails. I sent out the resignation email. And then instantly, as soon as I hit send, I called my managing partner on the phone because I felt like he had to hear it through my voice before he saw it over
Yes.
email. And then honestly, once that happened, it was this weight that came off my shoulders. And now there's a couple of hours where there was really not a whole lot to do because we weren't live yet. So I had another, couple of phone calls of people that were important to me in the industry. The person that had hired me and had since retired a number of years ago. I called those important people. And then later that afternoon, started just calling clients and having this conversation about why we were doing this and why this puts our clients in the best possible position.
Hmm. Well, is there so let's go back to your those initial conversations the first couple of weeks. How did clients' response were very positive? Were there any that kind of stuck with you? Any specific client that, you said they gave the reasons why they're saying anything really stick out?
Yeah, oh my gosh, so much. So my business coach has been harping on me for years to have a success journal. So what I have is I actually have two pin notes in my phone.
Hmm.
One is good things are always happening to me, and the second one is nice things people say to me. And
Hmm.
so I logged so many of that in the nice things people say to me. And that's one of those things. So if I'm having a bad day, I can remind
Yeah.
myself, okay, Julianne, you're not that horrible. But in any case, one of my clients, longtime client, one of my top clients, one of the people I was nervous to call, not because they wouldn't come with me, just because they were so important to me personally and professionally.
Hmm.
And he said to me, he said, Julianne, do you ever just stop and look around at what you built?
Isn't
And
that great?
yeah, that was probably the most impactful thing. It was just, wow, I'm doing something right here.
That's fantastic. I mean, when I had these conversations back in 2020, a lot of clients actually felt excited for it because they almost feel like they're along for the ride. They get to see us grow and not be held back like we were at the insurance company. And we still get those comments today, which is great. And it's just, again, it's confirmation that you do great work. And that
Thank you.
does not surprise me. In fact, it doesn't surprise you that every one of your clients gave you those kind of accolades.
Thank you.
What was harder than expected during in the first couple weeks?
Um, I think for us, it was learning just the new processes, learning the new technologies and so forth, because there's a learning curve to all of it. Um, but now that we're in it, now mind you, we have not mastered the technology. I don't think any of us here on my team would be considered an IT master by any stretch. Yeah, we have other strengths other things that we're good at. Um, Learning what that technology, learning the application process, and just really kind of getting our new systems in place. We had our workflows for different things we were doing, like an application. We had to, really edit that. And some of our workflows went from like 15 steps down to 8.
Mm,
Again, we were simplifying a lot of things.
that's great. And then,
Yeah. And to be clear, we're not 100% yet, but we're definitely well functioning, and we've been well functioning for a number of weeks.
11 weeks is not, this just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're still in the dust settling mode, you know, which is interesting because most people, what a misconception. I talked to an advisor last week and he said, what is it going to take me about 6 months to get back to the revenue? And I said, 6 months. I said, here's the dozens we've done. On the average, you're losing about a month to, I'd say a month and a half of revenue if you do it the right way.
Hmm.
And this advisor was taken back. He goes, "Well, I don't understand that's possible." And I walked through our process. The problem is most advisors, if you're not actively looking at what the transition process is, or speaking to someone like you that went through it 11 weeks ago, he was just, oh, I heard this a while ago. This is always stuck in my head about a transition. I got to have 6 months of income and I have two kids in college and I can't do it. Who told you 6 months? That's nowhere near what we've been doing here. Um, our
Yeah.
transition team here is just so well oiled. We've done so many of them, and intentionally we only transition one advisor at a time. So the whole team's attention's on that one transition. So I think we're faster than normal, but I don't think any firm should be taking 6 months to transition unless there's an outlier.
Yeah, 100%. So, I am projecting it. So I had maybe 1 month down where there was really significantly reduced income.
Yeah,
Second month, third month are, pretty close to, where I need to be to, maybe I'm not, booking a $10,000 vacation in the second month, but, still, all my bills are getting paid. I'm still living the life that I want to be living. My fourth month projection is going to be higher than my last month than my last couple.
love it, love it, love it, love it. And that's the norm. We see usually the economics are different for every advisor's book of business, but we're usually seeing 15 to 25% increase in revenue per dollar amount of AUM invested. So we don't have the levels of bureaucracy and the platform fees and all that nonsense, right? It's very transparent here, as you know now.
Yeah.
Um, Advisors strive for fee transparency to their clients, and as an advisor, you should strive for fee transparency in your practice. So if you're not leaving your firm, and it's funny how many advisors don't know how they're paid, but find out how you're paid. This is an example. A good friend of mine's been at the same firm for 25 years, and we're going through his economics. And I said, well, this doesn't make sense. You're telling me your payout's this, but I'm looking, no, my payout's here. And I said, double check. It turned out his firm was charging a 5 bip platform fee that he forgot about. And on a couple $1 million a year practice, I said, this is a lot of revenue you thought you were getting. And it completely changed how he viewed his firm. And this is someone with 20 plus years of industry experience and still wasn't sure how he got paid. So find out how you get paid. I think it's
That is 100% universal. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was the conversation, I think probably the first or second conversation you and I had together, where I said to
Mhm.
you, Carmine, I'm at 90% of my grid. I'm not discussing taking anything less. And I remember you saying to me, you're not 90%.
Yeah.
I said, no, I am. I can show you on the screen. It says
Oh,
90.
you could show me what your payout is, but I could show you what the platform fees are and everything else because firms will say I had an advisor say I'm 100%, I have 100% payout. I go, well, okay, that's impossible.
Yeah.
She built a great practice. I still talk to her. Um, we peeled back the onion. Her firm was charging her 50 bips to run her money, and they weren't even doing a good job. So I said, you're literally at a 50% payout. And it was an eye opener for her because it's wordsmithing. No, I have a 100% payout. I go, well, that's
Mhm.
impossible. There's no way that it's impossible. Um, so it's just know how you get paid. And if something doesn't sound right, start peeling the onion, ask some questions.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a lot of things, it's one of the things that initially scared me the most was, and I think it scares a lot of people, is that revenue piece. And
mm,
that's why I think transition packages are so popular. And so I remember talking to a friend of mine, and they were telling me why they turned down a transition package. I mean, that's, you know, that's a great safety blanket. That is there's a lot of money that investment companies and RIAs are throwing out on the table.
oh, yeah.
And obviously, I did not take any type of transition package with you. And I'm so happy I did because what it comes down to is that somebody has to pay for it. And it's
I
not
love
the company. It's, they're fronting the money, but it would either be me by taking reduced fees for the rest of my career. I'm about halfway
forever.
through. I have about another
Yep.
20 years left. So, taking reduced fees, or my clients would have to pay higher platform fees.
I love that you bring that point up because there is a misconception in the industry, and we have a different type of transition assistance package. And an advisor was courting us at another firm the last year, the year before, and he was getting a good upfront from one of the large BDRAs. If I say the name, everybody would know it. Well, they're offering me this, and this is my payout, and blah blah blah. Great. I kind of want upfront money. I like your model much better. I like that there's no platform fee, blah, blah. So it went on to all this thing, how much he loves Cornerstone, but it went back to the money. I said, I could give you the upfront, but your payout's going to be this. He goes, well, why does my payout go down? So you understand, we make money. We don't make money any other way.
Mhm.
So it's not now to your point. A recruiter wrote a white paper on this and Kit just posted it in 2021. If anyone on this webinar wants a copy of it, please ping me through LinkedIn. I will email you a copy of this. And this is a recruiter that recruited for the large BDRAs, which I think after this went out, he didn't get the jobs anymore because it basically broke down what fees the clients are paying and what fees the advisors are paying and how these firms earmark those fees for transition money. So I was talking to another advisor recently. He said, well, they're going to offer me money, but I'm going to turn it down because I don't want to. And by the way, all these checks come with 10-year
Yeah.
restrictions, 8-year restrictions, depending on the firm. He said, well, I'm going to turn down the upfront money because I don't want the 10-year stay restriction. So, well, this is even worse. He said, why? Because you and your clients are paying for an upfront package for someone else that you didn't even get. They didn't bump his payout because he didn't take upfront money. Here's your
Mhm.
payout, and we'll give you up to this based on your trailing 12 months GDC. So to your point, typically RIAs, and we don't have piles of money just to hand out. If they're giving you $500,000, they're making $2 million somewhere else. And that goes back to peeling the onion.
Yeah.
So yeah, great point. Thank you for bringing that up. And again, if anybody wants a copy of that white paper, please ping me and I'll have my team send you a copy. It's fantastic. It really breaks down where they're getting that money from. Um, we offer transition package. We offer transition assistance in terms of a very favorable deferred payment loan. So if there's an advisor says, look, I just a month and a half or 2 months of revenue, I just can't do it. Well, great, we'll help you. But it's not a payout, it's a loan, and we structure it where it's very favorable. So now let's flash forward to today. Now we're 11 weeks out. So man, what is different in your day to day today as it was, say, a year ago?
Yeah, what's different in the day-to-day is one, we have so many less distractions. We are, focused on our clients. The dust is settled. The vast majority of our clients are settled into Schwab, and the technology is rocking and rolling and everything. But we all have capacity. So, for example, I'm hiring another staff person right now.
Mhm.
And in the course of the interview, I realized that because our capacity changed, I can expand what that person's role is to do. And that's really
Yeah.
exciting because things that I didn't think that I was going to have somebody to do. So it was just going to be one more thing that was going to fall on my back, which is not the highest and best use of my time. Um, Now I have staff that can build that and they're not overwhelmed and they're not stressed. It's just another rock, another project that they can
Mm,
continue to work with. Um, you know, cutting about two-thirds of our client base because they were just a lot of orphan clients that needed servicing has created a significant amount of time in all of our schedules. The phones ring less, which is good because it was just busy work. It was, as Matthew Jarvis would say, playing office, kind of thing. It would feel like sometimes.
hmm
And if anybody's ever read the book Unreasonable Hospitality, my book club read it last year. That's one thing I want to focus on is doing that one size fits one for each of our individual clients. And now, if we've eliminated distractions and we've opened up capacity, we can really focus on that.
We talked about this, and I talk about this with everybody, but when we're in that insurance company environment, and by the way, the insurance company we were at, and they're all the same. They have product requirements throughout the year. So from July 1st to June 30th. In fact, what's today's date? June 8th. I'm sorry, June 3rd. They're right in the heat of what is called council season for this insurance company. So everyone's trying to get all their last minute business in because by July 1st, you have to be at a certain rung to get payout, to keep your benefits, whatever it is, right? Or, to be on some kind of leaderboard. When we talk about distractions, from July 1st to June 30th, as you and I are in our day to day trying to create as much client impact as possible, deliver as much value to our clients as possible, we had elevator music playing in the background.
Yeah.
And it's, hey, you have to do this amount of business in the next 12 months. Just remember this requirement's here. Now, elevator music is soft, but it's never good. I've
Mhm.
never heard great elevator music ever. When I decided to leave, that elevator music was gone. That other agenda, and one of our advisors said it best. Rest in peace, my great friend Mitch Jones. He passed away last year, unfortunately. But he had said to me before he joined Cornerstone, he said, I realized that I had three masters in my life. I had my family, my clients, and the company. And he said that's one too many. Can't get rid of my family. Not going to get rid of my clients. And he got rid of the company, which is all the requirements of selling, creating, making us all mini service centers for all the service work and the busy work, like you had said. And he was down to working 10, 12 hours a week and loving life.
Mhm.
And when you get rid of that distraction, things become more, you know, Ed Milet says where focus goes, energy flows. And if you're constantly getting bombarded with things to do, you have to focus on getting this client. You just don't have the energy to think on how to scale and how to grow and what the next, what's going to happen 5 years from now or 3 years from now, because you're so inundated in the moment. But when all that stuff goes away, now you can breathe.
Yeah.
Client meetings are different too. I know we had this conversation as well. Everything is different.
Yeah. And the funny thing about client meetings being different is I can't identify why, but they are different. The conversation, yesterday, this week, I met with clients about opening up a 529 plan. And
Mhm.
last week, someone called me about financial aid options and with children going to school right now. The conversations are different.
I know.
Can't put my finger on why, but they are different.
I think it's a mixed bag. I think I can't put my finger, I can't give you 100% definitive answer on why, but I think the absence of that elevator music and those requirements is a
Hmm.
big part of it, because let's just say, hey, it's June 3rd, and say you're running behind in being whatever level council you want it to be in, and you're on the phone with that person that wants to talk about financial aid. Now, this insurance company, the only way you can go up the rungs is you got to sell their core product, their life annuity, long-term care things. And in that conversation for financial aid, which is, by the way, the most impactful thing you do for that client today, there's no core product placement. What are you thinking about? Subconsciously, your mind is thinking, well, my next meeting, can I sell a product? Or, oh, I can call this one person. They may need insurance. I believe that's probably the biggest factor in why things are different because you can devote 100% of your time, your mind, your energy to helping that client with no other agenda, either in that meeting or what's going to happen after that meeting. I think that really clears us.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and here's, and we have to close out because we're almost, see, the problem is you and I can talk for hours. That's an issue. Um, what do you appreciate now that you couldn't see before? I think this was a really good thing to kind of, reframe being 11 weeks in. Is there something you can appreciate now?
Yeah, I appreciate feeling like I feel like I found my home. And I feel like
Uh,
people, your team, like I feel like I'm where I belong and people want me. My team, my office team, the Dream Big team, we all feel the same way. Um, Everybody is, we're all on, the boat going in the same direction. And that's to make sure the clients are successful.
I talk about this a lot. People have heard me on my podcast or on these webinars is that you can have some alignment with the firm that you're affiliated with, like where we were. Okay, we had some alignment, right? They allowed us to do some business and they wanted the clients to be taken care of, but on their own terms. I guess taking care of is
Yeah.
different. Our definition is different than theirs.
Yeah.
So you have some alignment, but when you have true alignment, which means your vision and the firm's vision are the same, man, that's when 1 + 1 = 10. I mean, that's when you really see, we've seen multiple practices scale here. We're doing white papers now, which my marketing team is doing, preparing. So please be on the lookout for these downloads. But, we have 5 teams that have either 2 or 3x their business in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
Um, because it got rid of all the operational compliance constraints and all the requirements, and they're able to just be advisors. And you look at their practices when they came to where they are today, completely different. And in a year from now, or 9 months from now, you'll be about a year in. We're going to look back on this and say it's a completely different practice. And I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm happy to write shotgun because I can't wait to see 1, 3 years down the road where you're going to be. It's great.
Yeah,
Um,
same. Thank you.
I'm glad it feels like home, and it feels like you've been here the whole time.
No, thank you.
And everyone here will get a copy of we'll push out the full version of our great discussion here. If you have any questions, concerns, or just want to talk about what your practice can look like uh, on the independent side, please reach out to me. I'd love to discuss. And Julianne, thank you again for your time. I know it's super valuable. I'm sure you probably have meetings stacked this afternoon, so hopefully this was a good dopamine boost for you to talk about your great experience. And I really appreciate you. Thank you for all you do, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Carmine.
All right, everyone, have a great day.